Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babel on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Nun Beis, Daf 152 of Masechta Shabbis. Very brief overview before we start the Daf. Basically, entirely agadata, mostly about old age and dying. So if that's what you're into, then this is going to be a great Daf. And if you're just into Gemara in general, it's also going to be a great Daf. So it sounds like you're probably going to enjoy this daf. So let's get started. Daf Kuf Nun Beis Amud Aleph towards the top, second line of the page. Says the pasuk in Koheles. We're basically continuing right in the 12th parak of Koheles. So Shlomo HaMelech, if of course he is in fact the one who wrote Koheles, so Shlomo HaMelech is telling us and different things about like old age and death and stuff. So the pasuk says, "Bayom she'azu shomrei abayis v'savsu v'gomer." So we're going to go through this pasuk one by one and explain it. So Bayom she'azu shomrei abayis elu aksalim v'atzlos. So on the day that the shomrei abayis shake, and that is the shomrei abayis, the guarders of the house, are the flanks and the ribs. Okay, I feel like if this was meat, that might sound appetizing, but this is human meat, so let's just go weiter. V'savsu anshe achayil, and the anshe achayil get all crooked. Who are these anshe achayil? Elu shokayim. These are the thighs. Uvadlo atochanos, and the grinders become like null. Elu shinayim. These are teeth, right? Because the teeth grind stuff. V'chashchu haro'os ba'arubos, and the seers in the windows. What do you guys think the seers are? The eyes. Elu ha'inayim. The oigen, the eyes. I'm pretty sure oigen in Yiddish is eyes. I think oirin is ears. Eyes, l'maisa. Amalei Kesel Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, said the Caesar to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Rabbi Yeshua, right, this is Rabbi Yeshua, he's super interesting. Like, he always ends up in these interesting spaces with the Caesar. The Gemara at the end of Nida talks about when he's with the people of Alexandria. Also, it came up somewhere in Chagiga, I think, but I never learned Chagiga. But anyways, he like ends up in like interesting spaces. So said the Caesar to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, "My time lo asis levei avidan." How come you haven't come to Bei Avidan? Who remembers what the Bei Avidan is? So I remember it rang a bell, and it took me a long time to find this morning. Thought it would be quicker, but it was on Daf Kuf Tazayin Amud Aleph. It talked about how Rav and Rava would refuse to go to Bei Avidan. Shmuel would go to Bei Avidan. It was the place where they would have these debates between the religious Yidden and the Chevra who, Jews, I think, who basically would try to challenge them, Minim, people like that, maybe early Christians. So the Caesar asked Rabbi Yeshua, why don't you come to Bei Avidan? Amalei, Rabbi Yeshua told him, Tor Tlag, it's a mountain full of snow, i.e., my head is full of white hair. Sachroni gliden, and this mountain is surrounded by ice, i.e. my beard and my mustache are white. Kalboi lo navchin, the dog no longer barks, i.e. I no longer have a strong voice. Tachnoi lo tochenen, and the grinders don't grind, i.e. if I remember correctly, basically my teeth, my teeth are no longer strong. Meaning, he was saying, look, he's old and he's weak. That's why he can't come argue in the Bei Avidan, as much as I'm sure he would have loved to. Be'Rav Amrei, they say in the Besmedrash of Rav, Adlo Avidna Bachishna, that I haven't even lost anything, and yet I'm searching for it. Meaning, so there's two ways to understand it. Rashi explains that it's Kilu, he's bent over, right? An old person is bent over, and it's as if he's looking for something, but he's really not. He's just bent over. So many sirens, man. These sirens, they go all the time. I don't know why. I have a conspiracy theory about it, but otherwise, conspiracy theory or not, these sirens go all the time. It could drive you nuts. Is it just like a thing in the city, or like is it? Maybe I'm just noticing it now. But I developed this conspiracy theory, which is that the like the government wants the ambulances to blare their sirens really loud so that people get scared of the coronavirus and stay inside because they'll think everyone's getting sick. I don't know if I really believe that, but it's some thought that definitely entered my mind because there's so many sirens blaring. And they blare also at like 6 in the morning. or even earlier. Like, I can't imagine that there's that much traffic at 6 in the morning that they need to blare their siren. So I don't know. Alright, sorry for the distraction, but there was a siren. It's actually still going. I'm going to pause it until it ends. Okay, siren is done. So, Tani, yeah. Oh, right. So I was saying that there's another explanation, which is that, in the old age, he thinks that he's looking for something. He's thinking that he's looking for something that's lost, but it's actually right in front of him. Right? So something that isn't lost, he's looking all over the place for, and it's really right in front of his nose. Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Bar Kisma Omer, we learned in the Brisa, says Rabbi Yossi Bar Kisma. Who is Rabbi Yossi Bar Kisma? I don't know. Tava Trei Mitlas. 2 is better than 3, i.e., it is better to walk on 2 feet than on 3 feet. What's the third foot? A cane. Voila lechada de azla velo asya. Woe is to the thing that goes and doesn't come. What does that mean? Maihi, what is this thing that goes away and doesn't come back? Amr of Chizda Yankusa. Rav Chizda said it is youth. Youth goes away and doesn't come back. Kiasar of Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, no, the opposite. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amr Yankusa Klila Devarda, youth is a crown of roses, Savusa Klila Dechilfa, whereas old age is a crown of thorns. I just had this thought that came to my mind now as I'm reading it. Maybe it's all the same crown, just that when you're young you see the roses, and when you're young you experience the roses, and when you're older you experience the thorns. Just a thought. Tanu Mishmei de Reb Meir. It was taught in the name. Of Reb Meir. Dok bikache. Chew well with your teeth. V'tishkach benigare, and then you will find an improvement in your stride. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'nisba lechem v'niyeh tovim, that we will be satisfied with bread, and then we will be good. V'ra'a lo ra'inu, and we won't see anything bad. So if you chew your food well, and that way you will be able to digest it well. So you will be good, and you will have a good, solid stride. Amalei Shmuel Rav Yehuda. Shmuel said to his student Rav Yehuda, Shinana, sharp one, Shri Sakech, open up your sack, i.e., open up your mouth, Va'ayil Lachmech, and put in some bread, i.e., make sure to eat. Ad Arbin Shnin Mechla Maile, Mikan Ve'elach Mishte Maile. So for the first 40 years of your life, eating food is good for you. And then after that, drinking is better. So I guess the first 40 years of your life, eating is real good, and after that, drinking is real good. And of course, Shmuel was a doctor, so he was giving medical advice. Oh wow, this is a very interesting dialogue now. So you have this goza. A goza is a eunuch, somebody who doesn't have any testicles. Now, he was speaking to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha was bald. So you have a dialogue between somebody who doesn't have testicles with somebody who doesn't have hair, and they're each insulting the other. So here we go. You ready? So the eunuch asked Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, he said, from here to Baldville, how far away is it? I.e., he was making fun of Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha for being bald. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha responds to this eunuch, he says, well, it's just about as far as it is from here to missing Testicleville. Okay, very nice. Amalei mina barcha karcha barba. So a min, which I think it makes more sense if you say that it's referring to still the same eunuch who was hawking a chinik to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. So he says to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, he says a bald sheep, and Rashi says that meaning a goat. So a goat is 4 zuz. All right. Amalei. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says ikara shlifa. A eunuch, a castrated sheep, bitmanya, is 8 zuz. Alright? I guess that means that it's even more significant to be missing testicles. Alright? Chazid l'osai misane. Okay? And then this eunuch saw that Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha wasn't wearing any shoes. Amalei. So the eunuch said, the al-sus melech, somebody who rides on a horse is a king. The al-chamor ben chorin, somebody who rides on a donkey is a free man. Udmin ale brigloi bar inish, and somebody who has shoes is a person. Okay. Tiloha v'loha dechafir v'kaver tavmine. Now somebody who has none of these things, he's neither riding a horse, nor a donkey, nor is he even wearing shoes, well then somebody who is dug into the, for whom a grave is dug and is then buried in that grave, i.e. somebody who's dead, is even greater than that person who doesn't even have any shoes. Amar lei, to which Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha responded to this eunuch, Guza, Guza, Mr. Eunuch, Tlas amartli, tlas shamat. You have you haven't thrown like 3 insults my way. I will respond with 3 items as well. Hadras panim zakon, the radiance of the face is a good geshmak, a beard. Simchas lev isha, the happiness of the heart is a woman. Nachlas Hashem banim, and the inheritance of God is children. Baruch hamakom sheminacha mikulam, and blessed is God who has withheld all of these 3 from you. You don't have a beard, you will not have a wife, and you will not have any children. Amarle karcha matsuyana. So he says, to which the eunuch said, wow, Mr. Bald Man, you are very feisty. Amarle ikara shlifa tochecha. To which he says, Mr. Eunuch, what was it? You started. You were giving me a hard time, and it was coming your way. Okay. Amarle Reb Shimon ben Chalafta. Rebbe said to Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, I wonder if he was the brother of Reb Yossi ben Chalafta. I do not know. So Rebbe said to Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, how come we didn't have the honor of seeing you during the regel, during the holiday, just like my fathers had the honor of seeing your fathers? So Amalei Slaim Naisu Gvoim. So Reb Shimon ben Chalafta answered that small rocks have already become big mountains, right? Krovim Naisu Rechokim, things that once upon a time were close have now seem very far away. Mishtayim Naisu Shalosh, from 2 have become 3. I now have to walk with a cane. Mesim Shalom Bevayis Batel, and that which brings peace to the house is no longer useful, i.e. His penis, he is no longer able, he doesn't have a desire to sleep with his wife anymore. The assumption being that would bring peace in the house, and he's no longer able to do that, or at least doesn't have the desire to. And the doors close in the marketplace. This is a continuation in Koheles. These are the holes in a person, i.e. he's unable to go to the bathroom well when he gets old. And this is because the stomach doesn't digest the food very well. Which one is it, friends? V'yakum l'kol hatzipor, and he wakes up from the sound of a bird. Shafilu tzipor mina'araso mishnaso, that even the delicate sound of a bird is capable of awaking him from his sleep. Vayishku, I believe, kobanos ashir, and all of the daughters of song are quiet. Shafilu kol sharim v'sharos domos olav kishucha, that even the sounds of the male and female singers are silent to him. It's very difficult for him to hear anymore. Ve'af Barzilai Hagiladi Omer LeDavid. Also Barzilai Hagiladi said to David HaMelech, Ben Shmonim Shana Anochi Ayom, I'm 80 years old today. Ha'eda ben Tov L'Ra, do I know from good and bad? Mikan Shedaitan Shoskein Mishtanos. This teaches that the knowledge, that the thoughts of older people changes. Em Yitam Avdecha Es Asher Ochal, if your servant will be able to taste that which I eat, right? Meaning, Barzilai is saying he can no longer taste food very well. Beis asher eshte, and that which I will drink. Mikanchesh sifsosein shozkenim mitraftos. So we see from here that the lips of old people like crack and split, and it becomes difficult to eat. Im eshma od b'kol sharim v'sharos. If I will hear any more the sounds of singers, male singers and female singers, mikanchos name shows kenim miskavdos. From here we see that the ears of elderly people become difficult to hear. Amar Rav Barzilai, Amar Rav said, Rav Barzilai Agiladi Shakara Hava. Rav said that Barzilai Agiladi, this man who is 80 years old and is talking about his old age, he's a liar. Because there was a maidservant who worked in the house of Rebbe. Bastishin v'tartin shnin. She was 92 years old. Taima Kidra, and she would taste the food. She was a cook. She would taste the food and make sure it tasted good, and she had flavor. So Rava Amar Barzilai Agiladi Shatuv B'Zima Hava. Rava says that Barzilai Agiladi was involved, overtaken with zima, I guess, like inappropriate relationships, I guess. V'chol Shatuv B'Zima Zikna Kofetzes Olav, and anybody who is involved too heavily in inappropriate relations, so then old age jumps upon this individual. Tanya, we learn in a brayser, Rabbi Shema, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Talmidei Chachamim, Kozman Shemazkinin Chachma Nitosefes Bahem. So says Rabbi Shema, Rabbi Yossi, that Talmidei Chachamim, the older they get, the more wise they get. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Bishishim Chachma, that in older people is wisdom, V'orech Yamim Tivuna, and with long days comes understanding. Ve'amei Aretz, now for Amei Aretz, people who do not educate themselves, so Kozman Shemazkinen Tipshus Nitosefes Bohen, the older they get, the sillier, the stupider they get. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Meisir Safal Ne'emanim, who removes speech, I guess, who removes speech from those who speak. V'tam Zakenim Yinal Yikach, and he will take the flavor or the wisdom, I guess, of older people. Gam migavoa yiru, even from that which is tall, they will be scared. Shafilu gav shushis ketana doma olav kariharim, that even a small mound of dirt looks like it's a humongous mountain. Ve'chatchatim baderech, and they will be scared on the way. B'shash mahalich baderech naisulo toim, and as he's walking on the way, he will become very nervous and scared. V'yonetz ashaked zokalboses, and the fig tree and the almond tree will blossom. And what this means is that this is, you see, the sirens are going again every 5 minutes. So this is a reference to the hip, that their hip bone is going to stick out, meaning that their tissue is going to kind of wear away, and you'll be able to see their bones more. V'yistabel achagav elu agavos, and their buttocks will be heavy upon them. V'tafar evyona zochemda, and there will no longer be evyona, which is a desire for women. There will no longer be a desire for women. I assume that's probably a reference to men. Will not desire women. Rav Kahana have a pasuk Sidra Kami the Rav. Rav Kahana was the sirens are back. So the pasuk Sidra Kami the Rav, and Rav Kahana was teaching psukim in front of Rav. Kimata lahikra, and when he reached this pasuk, Nagid va'asnach, Rav kind of gave a krechts. Amar shmamina batul lechem de Rav. So Rav Kahana assumed from there that, I guess, Rav no longer has a desire for women. Amar Rav Kahana, said Rav Kahana, my dichsev, what is that which is written? Kihu Amar v'yai, that he said, and it became. Zo isha, this is a reference to a woman. Hutziva v'yamod, he commanded, and it became. Elu banim, this is a reference to children. Tana, we learn in a braysa, Isha chemes melea tsoa ufia melea dam. Okay, a woman is a container filled of excrement, and her opening is filled with dam, with blood, a reference to menstrual blood. Yet nonetheless, v'akol ratzon achareh, and yet everyone runs after her. The connection to the pasuk being that there isn't necessarily reason for why men are attracted to women, if not for kihu amar v'yei, God said, and it just is that way. Alright, let's go weiter. Ki holech ha'adam el beis olamo, that a person is going to his world. Amar Yitzchak, melamed shekol tzadik v'tzadik nosen lo madu lefi kvodo. It teaches that every single righteous man in heaven, God gives him a place to stay based on his honor. So it's not like everyone's in the same place. Based on your honor, you get a different spot. It's like a king who comes with his servants into the city. When they come into the city, they all come in through the same gate. Just like when everybody dies, they all, die in the same place and go through the same place in heaven, I guess. But when they come to rest, but when the king and all of his servants come to rest, even though they all came into the city in the same gate, each person gets his own room, and I guess how fancy your room is dependent on how fancy you are. So here also in heaven, everybody gets a space that is relative to I guess what they've accomplished in their lifetime. Says Rabbi Yitzchak, this is the third time I believe that we are seeing this together. Says Rabbi Yitzchak that a worm is as difficult and as painful to a dead body like a needle in somebody who's alive. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ach b'saro alav yichab, that as long as his flesh is upon him, he will still experience pain. Amar Rav Chizda nafsho shel adam misabelas alav kol shiva. Very interesting. Rav Chizda says that after somebody passes away, his soul mourns for him for 7 days. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'nafsho alav teval. That same pasuk in Eov says that, and his soul will mourn for him. And how long is mourning? It says, v'yas la'aviv evel shivas yom, that Yosef made for his father Yankiv mourning for 7 days. So we see that mourning is for 7 days, and it says that your soul mourns for you. So it means that your soul mourns for 7 days. Amar Rav Yehuda, said Rav Yehuda, meis she'ein lo menachmen, for somebody who passes away and doesn't have anybody to mourn for him. Hochin yud b'nei adam v'yoshvim b'mkomo. So 10 people go and sit in his house. Fine. Hahu d'shchiv b'shivivuse de Rav Yehuda. So there was somebody who passed away in Rav Yehuda's town. I guess Pumbedisa. And this person didn't have anybody to comfort him. So, meaning he didn't have any relatives to sit shiva. So, koyoma have a davar Rav Yehuda be asara b'yasve beduchte. And so every day during shiva, Rav Yehuda would gather 10 people and they would sit in this person's house. Shiva yamim, and then after 7 days, ischazile bechilme de Rav Yehuda, this person who passed away appeared to Rav Yehuda in a dream. V'amar le tanuach daitech, may your conscious rest, she'enachta is daiti, that you have rested my conscience. So we see that during the entire shiva, he was by his body, or he was kind of still close to what was going on, and it was very helpful to him, that to this person who passed away, that it meant a lot that Rav Yehuda gathered 10 people every day to be by this person's house, since there was nobody to sit shiva for him. Amar Rabbi Abau, says Rabbi Abau, kol she'omrim bifnei ames yodea ad she'isasem ha-golel. Anything that you say in front of a somebody who passed away, he is aware of, he knows, until the coffin is closed, until the top of the coffin is closed. Pligiba Reb Chia Reb Shimon Berebi. So Reb Shimon, the son of Rebbe, argues with Rabbi Chia. Chad Omer ad she'isasem agola v'chad Omer ad she'is'akel abasar. One of them says that what this means is that somebody is aware of what's going on until the top of the coffin is closed. The other one says that no, rather, a mace is aware of what's going on until the flesh is, what's it called? Decomposed. Okay. So I guess Rabbi Abau, who came later, was kind of holding like Rabbi Chia, that it's based on, well, no, it says one of them. We don't know who says what, I guess. So the one who says that the person who passed away is knowledgeable of what's going on until his flesh decomposes. The pasuk says, that as long as his flesh is still upon him, he will feel pain, and his soul will mourn upon him. Manda Amar, so I guess that there's some level of knowledge until the flesh decomposes. Manda Amar, Chisasim Agolel, Tichsiv Vyashav Offer Al Aretz Kshai V'Gomer. As the pasuk says in Yeshaya, in Koheles, that the dust will return to the land. The dust referring to a person's body. That it says that God created man Offer min Adama. So his body will return to the land as it was. So once already it returns to the land, and the coffin is closed and dirt has been put on it already, right up until that point. Right at that point, then he no longer knows what's going on. That the spirit will return to God who gave it to him. So to not lo commotion sanalach bitara afata bitara, right? Give it back to him the way that he gave it to you. Just like he gave it to you in purity, so also return it to God in purity. Mashal melech basav adam. It's a parable to a king of flesh and blood. Shechalak bigdei malchus la'avadav, that he divided up, that he gave out very kingly clothing to his servants. Pikchin shebayim kiplum v'nichum b'kufsa. So the ones who were wise, they took this clothing that was given to them and they folded it up and put it away for safekeeping. Tipshim shabayin, but the foolish among them, halchu v'asu bayin melacha, they went and they just made it into their work clothes. Liyamim, after a certain amount of time, bikesh hamelech es kelev, so the king asked for his clothing back. The gift that he gave, he asked for it back. Pichin shabayin echzirum lo kshein migohatzin. So the wise ones who folded it up neatly and put it away for safekeeping were able to return the clothing in perfect condition. Tipshin shabayin echzirum lo kshein meluchlachin. However, the foolish ones who made these clothing into their work clothing, well, they returned the clothing all dirty. Samach hamelech likras pikhin v'chas likrach tipshin. So the king was very happy for the smart people who returned the clothing in great condition, and he was very upset with the fellows who returned the clothing in dirty condition. Apikhin Amar, so about the smart people, he said, Yinasnu kli la'otzar v'heim yelchu levatem l'shalom, well, their clothing should be placed in my treasury, and these fellows should go home in peace. V'atipshin Omer Amar, and on the foolish people, the king said, Klei yinasnu lekoves, we now have to give these clothing to the launderers. Ven yischabshu beveis aksurim. And then these foolish people now need to go to jail. Also God, about the bodies of the righteous, he says, Yavu shalom yanucha mishkavosam, that may they come in peace and rest on their beds. Omer, and he says about their souls, and may the soul of my master be wrapped with the bundles of life, and that is under the kisi hakavod with God. Right, it says, and then the pasuk continues, it says Hashem Elokecha, with God. Omer, it says about the bodies of the evil, Ein Shalom Amar Hashem LaRishayim, that there is no peace for the evil, said God. And it says about their souls, and the souls of your enemies, may they be slung in a slingshot. Tanya, we learn in a brisa, Rabbi Eliezer Omer says, Rabbi Eliezer nishmason shel tzadikim gnuzos tachas kisei hakavod. Right, says Rabbi Eliezer, continuing on what we just read, that the souls of the tzadikim are stored under the honorable throne of God. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vaysa nefesh adoni tzura b'tzor achayim, that may the soul of my master be bundled with the bundle of life with God. And whereas the souls of evildoers are locked up in jail, and you have one angel standing at one end of the world, and you have another angel standing at the other end of the world, and they basically just take this evil person's soul and just what am I listening to? Wow, I keep on getting distracted today. And they just slingshot them from one to the other. So you have two malachim, and they just slingshot this fellow's soul one to the other. Yeah, alright. Shneimar, v'znefesh oivecha yikalena b'soch kafakol, as the pasuk says in Shmuel Aleph over there, that the souls of your enemies shall be slingshotted in a slingshot. Rabbi said to Rav Nachman, but what about people in the middle? What about just, regular people that aren't tzaddikim, they aren't rishayim? So what about, this is interesting. This is really interesting. So Rabbah is asking Rav Nachman about Beinonim. Wasn't it Rabbah who said at the end of Masechta Brachos, Kigon Ano Beinoni? Like that I'm a Beinoni? So I guess Rabbah was interested in knowing what happens to him. What happens to Beinonis? Wow. That's interesting. So it says Rabbah to Rav Nachman, Shal Beinonim Mai. What about Beinonis? Amalei Ika Shchivna Lo Amri Lechu. So Rav Nachman says, wow, it's a really good thing that you asked me, because if I would have died without telling you, then you wouldn't have known this. So, Hai Milsa Achi Amar Shmuel, this is what Shmuel said. Elu ve'elu le Dumanim Sarin. So both Beinonim and Rishayim are given over to Duma, who Rashi says is the Malach who is appointed on these spirits. Halalu Yeshlein Manoach, Halalu Ein Loim Manoach. Now the difference is that the Beinonis, they can just kind of chill out, whereas the Rishayim, they get slingshotted. Okay. Amar of Mari, said of Mari, Asidim tzadikim dehavu afra. In the future, even tzadikim are going to become dust, right? Meaning, after they're buried, their flesh will become dust. Shneimar, the pasuk says, "V'yashuv ha'afar ala aretz kishaya," that the dust will return to the ground like it was. Right? God created man from dust, and it will return to dust. Okay. Hanu kapolai davu kaple ba'ar Rav Nachman. There were diggers that were digging in Rav Nachman's land. Nachar buhu Rav Achai bar Yoshia. And then as they were digging, all of a sudden, they digged up a corpse. And this corpse was that of Rav Achai bar Yoshia. And Rabbi Achai bar Yoshia was not very happy that he got disturbed. And he says, and he was nacharbu, he glared at them, he growled at them. So also Rav Nachman, Nachar ben Gavra. So these diggers were kind of spooked. And they went to Rav Nachman. They said, Rav Nachman, we were digging in your backyard and some guy just what was the word I said? Snorted at them or something. So Asav Amarle, Man Niumar. So Rav Nachman came to see what's going on, and he said to Rav Achai bar Yoshia, he said, to whom do I have the pleasure of meeting your acquaintance? Amarle, Ana Achai bar Yoshia. He says, I am Achai bar Yoshia. Amarle, Vlav Amar Rav Mari Asidit Sadike Davu Afra. And Rav Nachman says that, well, it's very peculiar because you're a dead person and yet your entire body is intact. Amarle Umanu Mari, right, and Rav Nachman says that's weird because Rav Mari said that the pasuk says, V'yashuv ha'afar al haaretz kishahaya, that the dirt will return to the land like it was. So, and Rav Mari says that even tzaddikim are going to become dirt. So it's very strange that your flesh is still intact. Amarle Umanu Mari. So, right, so Rav Achai bar Yoshia, who was presumably much older and had died a long time earlier, he says, I don't know who this Mari fellow is, so I don't really care for what he has to say. So Amalei v'hakraksib v'yashuv ha'afar ala aretz. So Nachman says, yeah, but even forget about Rav Mari. I mean, he was just really basing it on a pasuk that says v'yashuv ha'afar ala aretz kishahaya, that the dirt will return to the land like it was. So I don't understand, why have you not returned to being dirt? Amalei de akrayich koheles lo akrayich mishle. So Rav Achai bar Yoshia responds, well, it sounds like you may have read Koheles, but you certainly have not read Mishle. Because you have a pasuk in Mishle that says, "Urkab atzamos kina," that the decomposition of the bones is due to kina, to jealousy. Kol mi sheyesh lo kina b'libo atzmos of markivim. So anybody who has jealousy in his heart, so his bones rot. Anybody who doesn't have jealousy in his heart, then his bones do not rot. So I didn't have jealousy in my heart, so my bones didn't rot. Gishashe. So Rav Nachman felt Rav Achai bar Yoshia, and he saw that his mamish, felt like a normal human being. So Rav Nachman, I guess, was a little confused. He's like, wait, so essentially you're not really dead. I mean, your body is intact. You can talk. Why don't you come in and get some tea? You must be hungry. So to which Rav Achai bar Yoshia said to Rav Nachman, okay, clearly you haven't even read the prophets. Meaning, okay, so it's one thing if you haven't read Mishle. Mishle is the Ksuvim. But you haven't even read the Navi. It says, the pasuk says in Yechezkel, that you will know that I am God when I open up your graves. Meaning that until, we can't just leave our graves until God opens them for us. So Rav Nachman accepted that, and he says, wait, but still, I don't get it. It does say that you are dirt and you will return to dirt. And that's not even a pasuk from Mishlei, that's a pasuk from Bereshis, that, right, that God says to Adam Arishon. And as Rashi says, that all of the curses of Adam Arishon, all generations are equal. So that is 1 minute before the resurrection of the dead. That 1 minute before the resurrection of the dead, I will become into dirt. But until then, my flesh will remain intact. Interesting story, right? Anyways, friends, that was Daf Kufnan Beis. I know it's hard to really do a recap here, other than to say that there was just a daf full of agadata about old age and death. So, kind of interesting, right? Friends, have a great day, or great night, or whatevs. Peace.